Hey, welcome to the second episode of the Finance Bruh, a show where we have real conversations with real people about money. Today's guest on the show is someone who's working in a profession I believe is extremely undervalued. And I'm excited to speak with him today and learn from his perspective. Performing as a mental therapist, I think that's a job that is extremely important, especially within our community. So before we get started, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, what school you went to, what chapter you from, what frat you in, all of those things. Talk about what you do in the business world so people can get to know you before we jump into this conversation.
Yes, sir, man. First of all, I want to just thank you for inviting me on the podcast. My name is D'Angelo Taylor. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm based out of Washington, D.C. I'm originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I went to undergrad at, you already know, Fayetteville 26. I went to undergrad at UNC Charlotte, and I moved over to DC and went to grad school at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, where I received my master's in counseling psychology. And then from there, worked in the field, and then I eventually started my own private practice called Soundtrack to Life LLC. So just kind of backing up, man. A member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
Are you?
So definitely, shout out to the bruh, shout out to the fraternity. Also, I'm a music producer, and one unique thing about how I practice therapy, I provide a culturally congruent approach to mental health therapy, and actually using music as one of my tools to kind of help eliminate some of the barriers that's in place where people are unable to like really communicate or talk. So we use music as a way to kind of help reach people and help them kind of discuss things that's kind of going on with them. Outside of that, really have a passion for just really helping others, really helping see people grow, helping people reach their potential and seeing their potential for growth. Other than that, right now, again, as I mentioned before, music producer, and yes, man, continue to keep growing this practice and helping and touch as many people's lives as I can.
Bro, you doing some actual dope stuff, and I actually never really heard that perspective of utilizing music as therapy, which is funny because me and my line brother Andre Truss, who was on another episode, we use music as for our therapy like every day. So it's interesting to see that someone recognize that connection and really move towards using that to help people. So that's dope. And I think this is definitely flow into what we're going to talk about today, which is, for me as a financial coach, and I help with credit repair and helping people with their finances. Kind of, I talk to a lot of people about lifestyle things as well, almost like a life coach, but I don't call myself a life coach, right? But one of the things I see, and I actually, in my book that I wrote, the In the Smoker Mindset, to me, there seems to be a tie between the status of a person's mental health and the status of their bank account, or the status of their personal finances. So I wanted to have you on here to talk about, how you feel that connection is tied together, and kind of talk about things that you see that may be, causes, things you see that may help fix them. And then we kind of just push through there.
Okay, no, definitely. One thing I can definitely say is, having poor mental health can be linked to having poor financial decisions or poor finances, and vice versa. A cycle that I typically see as well is poor finances can be linked to having poor mental health. So with that being said, it's almost like both of them kind of has to be worked on, or like really be aware of like kind of what's happening, and really putting some emphasis in both of these areas as it relates to doing what's needed to do to improve your mental health, as well as making sure you're doing what's necessary for your finances. But if we're talking about different things that affect, as it relates to finances affecting your mental health, it's many different things that could come into play. Whether it's not having enough money, maybe being in too much debt, maybe not having a job, and of course, that could be relating to finances. It could be even relationship stress and trying to actually, do what's necessary for a relationship as it relates to finances. Many different things that kind of like comes up that can affect a person's mental health. A lot of people who are struggling with their finances, some symptoms that you might notice, that a person might have anxiety, they might have depression, they might feel a lot of stress. Some people might have trouble sleeping, weight loss. A lot of different symptoms may come out of having poor finances. As I mentioned, relationship difficulties, maybe social withdrawal. Maybe a person doesn't feel like interacting with folks because they feel like their finances aren't in place or their money isn't right. Maybe they're having even physical illness is something that comes up. And another big thing is unhealthy coping mechanisms, unhealthy coping methods.
Ooh, that's gonna be a big one to touch on. We have to get back to that.
Definitely. So it's a whole lot that kind of plays a part into, I guess, finances and mental health, and, you know, how they kind of link to, you know, with each other.
Wow. Okay. So since you just hit on, unhealthy coping mechanisms, can you dive into that a little bit more and how it ties to, say a person may not necessarily have the financial picture that they would like, and they're in kind of a, an unfortunate predicament. What are ways that you see that people tie to or move towards unhealthy ways to cope with the fact that their finances aren't in order?
Right. You know what? To be honest, sometimes people just avoid actually doing the work, or avoid even looking at their finances. So they avoid, even because it causes them so much distress to even think about, you know, whatever the issue is, whether it's the debt that they owe, the lack of just not having money, or maybe the job situation, or whatever the case is. A lot of people may just avoid even addressing the real issue of trying to fix their finances or fix their money. And I think that's definitely, you know, it can cause a person to lead into some negative coping habits. One could be drinking too much, you know, trying to drink their problems away. You may have heard of that in many different instances where a person just try to drink their issues away. You know, could be abusing, right. Could be abusing drugs or illegal drugs. Sometimes could be gambling. You know, sometimes people might feel like, you know what, maybe if I go ahead and put it all on black right now, I can win all this money back and be able to pay all these bills. I get the money that I need. So, I mean, I've seen it ways like that. I've seen it in people overeating, you know, using that as an outlet for them to kind of escape the reality of what's going on as it relates to their finances.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it can go all the way down to a person self-harming, and then even having thoughts of suicide because they don't have enough money, or they don't have the money to take care of whatever it is that they feel like they need money for. Another thing that I also recognize is some people might even just go into maybe start overspending. You know, okay, my finances are already messed up. I'm gonna go ahead and just keep spending anyways. It is what it is, man. I'm already in a hole. I might as well keep buying all the things I want. And sometimes that's a temporary can make a person feel good when you get that fulfillment from buying something you like, or, you know, spending. You know, some people get that high off of that. So, and not even recognizing that they're putting themselves more in the hole, or actually doing more damage by continuing to spend and overspending. So it's so many different ways that, you know, people, you know, are unhealthy ways that people might cope when, you know, their finances are not, you know, at a place where they might not want them to be, or their finances are not good.
Wow. And then so with that, I'm assuming that, a lot of these things aren't just one-offs. A lot of those things are probably in combination with each other too, huh?
Yeah, definitely. You might find a person doing multiple of these things. Again, a lot of it is really just avoiding the true nature of having to deal with whatever financial issues that's you know, present at that moment.
So then we talked about, so this is something I talk about a lot. I actually think you reposted one of my posts that spoke specifically about this, but the avoidance, right? So I see a lot of people that, let's say, for instance, like they want to buy a home, right? And they want to buy a home. They're older in life, and they don't necessarily know, or they didn't know what was going on, but they kind of avoided the situation as it went, right? But then one day they want to do something special, like buy their own home or purchase a car outright, and they get denied for a loan because they ignored the issue for so long. But now when they actually have something they want to do where they need their stuff to be, correct or be up to date, it's not. So now they have to jump back. And a lot of times I see that people want to undo, 10, 15 years of wrongdoings in a month or two. And, I have to explain, I actually had a way where I talked with the client one time, and I was telling them like, hey, say you were 350 pounds, but you were naturally 170, and you built that weight over, 10, 15 years. You can't go to the gym and expect to see results in a month. You know what I'm saying? It took years for you to get to the point where you didn't be. It's going to take some time to build back up to where you need to be as well.
Exactly.
And I think it's the same with finances. If you spent, years of doing the wrong things, unfortunately, sometimes it can take, months or years to get back where you need to dig yourself out of that hole. But I see that a lot of people that tend to avoiding for, a few reasons. One, like you said, like they just don't want to deal with the stress of having to face that issue. And, how do you feel about other things? I think another thing, really a big one, is pride.
Definitely pride. I think pride is a huge one, man. In the society that we live in, where there's so much emphasis on having money and, being able to have these things like a house, a car, ownership, and so on and so forth. A lot of people might feel embarrassed, the fact that they're unable to like get those things, like everyone else. So when they see everyone else around them doing that and they're unable to, so I think that definitely plays a huge role into why people get to this point and then feel like, dang, yo, I should have this. Why don't I have this? On top of guilt from making those wrong decisions or those decisions they made in the past. And I know it's really difficult for a lot of people to just kind of accept those wrongdoings and accept, that unhealthy past as it relates to, those unhealthy financial decisions that they made. But a big part of being able to overcome and start making the progress is to be able to accept that, okay, I've done this. I recognize that I've done this. Let me make the decision not to do this again. And I recognize this is the work, this is where I'm at, and this is the work that I have to do. So a big part of that is a person being honest with themselves, which is a difficult thing for a lot of folks, is to really sit down and just be honest with themselves.
Yeah.
Be honest with about their finances, be honest about the financial decisions that they've been making, and be honest about a lot of other things that they've been doing that's been contributing to them making unhealthy financial decisions. So I think that's a huge thing as it relates to a person really being able to get back on track from making a lot of wrong decisions or trying to get to a certain place, like buying a house or buying a car when their credit might be messed up or they don't have the money that they thought they should have. It takes a person who's really being honest with themselves about these decisions and things that they've been doing.
Man, so another thing that ties into that, which I hit on a lot, accountability, right? So that sounds like what you were hitting on right there is accountability, like a person's ability to, wake up one day, look themselves in the mirror and say, hey, I did this. Now I have to get on track and I put myself into this. I need to dig myself out of this. But before that, I need to really sit down and look at what I have done, because I know one thing that I try to push to people is, when it comes to personal finance, the first thing you have to do is assess the situation. You don't know where you need to go or where you need to move forward to if you've never taken the time to look and evaluate where you are, right? You can't, if you look at a map and you don't know where you are, you can't say, hey, I need to go here, because you don't know where you are. You have to identify where you are first before you can move there.
Now that's big facts. That's big facts, man. So I think that really just ties into, being honest with yourself and being able to take that moment to just sit there and reflect on, this is what I've been doing wrong. These are the things that's happened. This is where I'm at right now. Okay, now I see where I'm at. I know where I want to go. These are things I need to do to get to that destination.
So do you have any tips or tricks that you have for people when they're in that situation and haven't necessarily taken the time to look themselves in the mirror yet? Like, do you have something that you typically work with people and say, hey, like, you need to start doing this so that you can eventually get to the point where you address this situation to move forward?
Right. I mean, step one, a person has to want to do that. I think that's the biggest thing. You got to really want to be honest with yourself. If you really want to change, it's going to take a person taking that moment to be honest and be aware of the things that they've been doing. So, I mean, step one, the person has to be willing to and wanting to do that. Just like a person who comes into my office, or like, I see it, for therapy, they got to want to come, they got to come to me and actually want to be able to, receive that help, or have an open mind about, what new tools or what things they can gain from coming to see me. So if a person's not open-minded to actually getting the help or receiving the help, it's going to be really tough to have them sit down and be honest with themselves. So I think that's step one. I think another thing is too, it's to also paint the picture of, if you continue to keep taking this route of not, taking this moment to pause and be aware of what's going on, you're only going to keep digging yourself into a deeper hole. It's only going to lead to more, financial issues, more relationship issues, more difficulty trying to get the things that you want, whether that's the house, whether that's the car, whether it's even a job, it's certain places that probably still look at your credit score in order to let you know, are you healthy enough, financially healthy enough to even work with us? So I think it takes really takes a person wanting to really receive that, to get that help and to be helped.
Because they have to, so they really got to want it before they even seek help from someone else, right? Because I think another big part of that is identifying that you don't know the answer, right? Which is tough for a lot of people. It's tough for someone to, humble themselves and say, hey, I don't know the answer, I'm going to seek it, right? And then because it's a double-edged sword, right? I know, and I address this with a lot of my friends a lot of times, is you have to be careful, because even though people always offer you advice, it's a scary world, right? Like, everyone telling you advice isn't telling you the right advice, right? I hear a lot of people all the time who've been given advice about things when it comes to personal finance, and they're like, I can literally pull the documentation and say that's incorrect. You know what I'm saying? Like, but now that burns people, which is like on a two it's kind of double-edged. Like I said, if you're getting burnt by these people, you're not going to really want to seek stuff. And where do people going to go? They're going to go where they trust, which is typically family and friends, right? But
Mhm.
that's another issue, because if you're taking advice from family or friends that also has a jacked up financial situation, where are you really going? You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? A person
Right.
that is telling you, hey, you should do this, and they haven't done it,
Hmm.
it's not gonna really help you much, you know?
That's That's real. That's real. And you know what? And that's another thing too. That trust is a huge thing as it relates to getting help. Obviously you want to go to somebody that you can trust to help you, make the right decisions.
Mhm.
But another big thing is, a lot of people don't trust themselves. If you
Mm.
went down this whole path of making so many wrong decisions, it's gonna be really tough for you to trust yourself into making the right decision or even choosing who's this right person that's going to help me, or even deciding on whether or not this is what the right decision for me to do as far as helping my finances or just doing what I need to do to just be better overall. So I think that's something else, man. When it comes to some of my work, the things that I do is help people like really trust their decisions, really trust
Mm.
like what it is that they're doing. A big part of that is a lot of folks got to really take a look in the mirror and understand like, this is me. This is my honest, true self, without any of the lies that they've been telling themselves or any of the lies that people may have been telling them about who they are. They got to
Mhm.
look in the mirror and be like, yo, this is me. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I need to do. And you got to recognize all the lies that you may have been telling yourself. And you got to recognize that, I've been telling myself these lies. And this is why I'm here today. I've
Yeah.
been listening to other people, and I've been feeding into that when I haven't necessarily took that look in the mirror to see really truly who I am, and like really what it is that who is my own authentic self, that and what is that I want here.
Mhm.
So I think that's another big thing as it relates to helping the person really identify how to trust themselves, is for them to like really take a look in the mirror and be honest with themselves on who they are, what it is that they really want, and what it is they really need.
No, that's huge. I actually, it may have brushed crossed up, but I think that's a huge point. Is a person's ability to be able to trust themselves. I never
Mm.
really thought about that aspect on a huge scale, but that's huge, right? Because I never thought about the fact that someone may not trust themselves making decisions, and that only makes that situation even tougher, right? And I feel like that ties a little bit back into what you were saying earlier too. Is like, these people who are already in a bad situation see all these other people who are doing so much, right? Or they have so much. And that feeds into, I wanted to ask you about, because this is a new age, right? And there's new stressors out here that, people 30 years ago didn't have to deal with, right? And one of them
Right.
being social media. I think a
Right.
lot of people were misguided or misled by things that are presented to them in social media. People living, extravagant lifestyles and doing all these things. And a lot of people were like, hey, it feeds their instant gratification, right? Like, hey, or if they're
Yeah.
doing that, I know that I should be doing this too. Not understanding that a lot of stuff on social media is fake, bro.
It is.
It's fake.
It's fake, man. Social media ain't real. Let's just be honest, man. It's maybe a 1 to 5% of what you might see in a person's life. That doesn't encompass any of the struggles and things that it may took them, or what's going on in the background. For you to be able to see the things that you seeing, or what they post. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what people got to really understand, that a lot of what you're seeing, again, it's not 100% accurate.
So have you worked with anyone specifically, or experienced anyone who was dealing with, let's say, per se, financial issues, but the issues were kind of made worse by their expectations of themselves based off of what they seen from other people on things like social media?
Most definitely. All the time, actually, all the time.
Wow.
And I think that I want to say a lot of that comes I mean, the whole comparison thing, when a person try to compare their lives to someone else's, and they think they should be somewhere, but they're not recognizing that, when they compare their lives with other people, thinking that this is where they should be versus actually looking at themselves and like, okay, no, this is where I want, this is where I should be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I mean, and I'm gonna like taking off finance, like person might think I should be married, I should, have kids right now.
Mm-hmm.
I should, have the car, I should be owning a house, I should have a certain job, based off everything that you see and everybody else is doing on social media, but not necessarily taking the time to really think about, what is it that you want, not what this
Mm-hmm.
person wants and what makes them happy. What
Yep.
is it that makes you happy? It looks like happiness right there, but
Yeah.
is that really happiness? The type of, that's what you really want?
Yeah.
Are you going to even be able to sustain what that looks like right there?
Mm. Mm.
So it's a whole lot to kind of go into, when a person tends to compare themselves to other people, but not necessarily recognizing, what is it do I really want? This looks good, but is this only because I haven't identified what really truly makes me happy? So it kind
Mm,
of goes more back to self. And, social media has been such a, it's been deterring a lot of people from being able to take, again, I like going back to this whole look into the mirror analogy, because I think a lot of times it takes a lot of people have to be honest with themselves and look in this mirror or look inside themselves to really determine what it is that you want and what makes you happy.
mm,
So, when we look at social media, yeah, definitely it makes it difficult for people who haven't necessarily developed that psychological foundation of who they are and that sense of self. That
mm.
makes it difficult, when it comes to, they seeing these external things or seeing things on social media.
You know, that's huge because me and my boy, like, for me, I've had a major time, especially since getting out of Marine Corps last year, was really taking the time to figure out who Eric was as a person and like what do I like, what do I want, and those questions matter, right? Because when you
Mhm.
can determine, who you are, what you like, what lifestyle you desire, right? Because even though that lifestyle looks extravagant and fun that they're doing, that might not
Right.
actually suit, like you said, what you actually desire out of life. That might bring you no utility. You'll get in there and be just as unhappy because it's not actually providing what you need.
Mhm.
And also too is, hey, once you determine the light, like everybody's like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. What does that mean? Like what aspects of your life are you looking to sustain in order to be a millionaire? Because maybe you'll realize that, hey, I actually only need $8,000 a month to live the life I need. That's a
Mhm.
lot of stress that's removed.
It is. It is. Like they say, with more money, more problems. There's more things you got to kind of deal with, more people that's going to be coming to you that you might have to
Mm-hmm.
take care of.
Yep.
So it's like, what problems do you want with that $1,000,000? Are you able
Yeah.
to take on all those issues? If you're a person who already has difficulty dealing with stress, that might not be the life you really want right there.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And then so building more into, so I've heard you mention something about relationships a few times, right? So I kind of want to take this now and dive into what you see on the relationship side with people, right? And we can start with dating and build into maybe people who are married, right? Because I do think that there's a difference in between the two when it comes to finances, right? But I think they're both important, starting with the dating scene. Like I think there's certain conversations that people should have off rip when it comes to finances.
No, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, so if we want to just take it all the way back to just dating,
Mm-hmm.
starting out, like, what I'm saying,
Yep.
before you even step on the scene to find a lady, or, a lady's looking for a guy, I think finance is something to consider, for yourself to think about. Like, hey, what
Mm-hmm.
am I able to financially handle? Am I able to financially handle going on a date right now? Is that,
Right.
am I capable of paying for these things that, I feel are acceptable, or what I should be doing? Or should I be having this conversation with the person I'm looking to date on what that looks like, as far as going out and what spending looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, as society and what we might see on social media and different things, everybody has their own idea of what you should bring to the table financially.
Yeah.
Whether that's 50-50, we go half on the date, whether a man should be covering the whole date, or what I'm saying, whatever the case is, how 70 8 somewhere. I just heard 80-20. I think that was Steve Harvey that mentioned that recently.
Mm.
I was listening to him as it relates to what a man should cover versus a woman. But reality of it is you gotta, for one, know what you're willing to do for yourself. And you could possibly talk, communication is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Communicate with your partner who you potentially date on what that might look like.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is really just communication. As far as like what's the expectation as far as finances go when moving forward to kind of dating, if that's something that you're looking to, kind of grow with somebody. But even before then, man, I keep saying this because it always goes back to self, is you being honest with yourself on what you have
Mm-hmm.
and what you can contribute.
So do you think there's a tie between, all these things, like you said, keep tying back, but for instance, like pride, especially on the man side, right? Like I feel like for a lot of men out here, it would be very difficult to sit down with a young lady they're interested in and say, hey, look, I desire to, take you to these nice places and do these nice things. However, I'm
Mhm.
on a budget right now and I'm trying to get these things together. I can't do that right now. Would it be okay if instead we went here or did this, or, I made you dinner instead of going to, this fancy place, something like that, but I think that would be hard because you have to almost show that, like, hey, look, I'm not where I want to be, but like,
Right.
it also shows like you're honest too. Like, hey, I have a goal and I'm not willing to forsake that for anything. And I
Hmm.
feel like how do you feel about that conversation and how likely that is to happen and the stressors that go, especially with us as men, being
Right.
able to be that vulnerable and have that conversation with the woman? 'Cause I don't, I've always been pretty good with my money, but I don't know if, 3 years ago I would have had that conversation.
I got you. I got you. Same with me. I'll be honest, man. But to be real, I feel like we need to make that much more acceptable. We need to make that much more acceptable for men to really communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
Or not just men, even women too. I think we got to
Yeah.
really start being honest and have those honest conversations. That could eliminate so many more issues, so many issues if we could just be honest with ourselves and be able to have those honest conversations about what we can and what we can't do, and be honest about what we would like to do. And I think, it's up to the other person to determine whether or not they want to proceed with, dating or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that lets you know whether or not, if this person is real or not, if this person's a conditional type of person, or they're the type of person that, is really the right person.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, I'm telling you where I'm at and where I want to be, but you're not receptive or you're not okay with it, then okay, cool, man. I was honest, and you know what? Listen, I'm not with somebody that's probably using me for my money.
Yeah. That's a
So
major headache going.
exactly. So you probably eliminate a huge stressor by just being honest with yourself, and then not feeling like you had to uphold something when you probably wasn't in that position to necessarily, do that. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing, man. I think, we got to normalize having that type of conversation.
Mm.
And then just, again, being able to make that something that's the norm. It's tough though, again, when we have social media, when we have people telling us that, you got to have a certain amount of money, or you got to be able to do this, for the woman, or you can't, if you can't bring no money to the table, then you probably shouldn't even be exploring what the dating scene looks like. But that
Ooh.
honest conversation, bro, and we can talk about that one
Ooh,
too.
yeah, you might as well go ahead and just tee that up.
We can talk about that one too. But nah, man, that honest conversation really let you know, man, who might be that right person for you. And again, can eliminate a lot of stress.
Yeah, I think that's important. So hopefully, people hear that, because I do too, right? I want people, because I see a lot of men who, one, like, most of my clients are women, right? Because I think statistically women are more willing to get their finances in order to do what they need to do, because for one, they don't necessarily, if they find someone who has the answer, women are, for the most part, they're going to ask the questions and get what they need. It's
True.
us that create our own problems. It's like, hey, I don't
True.
need to ask him for help. I can figure it out on my own. And, I'll do this. I got it out the mud. You know what I'm saying? But like,
Mm.
I remember one time I had to sit down with myself, because I was in the same thing. I got it out. I'll get it. I figured I don't need no help. And it was like, why? Like,
Yeah.
I could take away half of this stress by just asking someone that already knows the answers.
That's facts. That's big facts, man.
Because majority of the stress goes from not knowing on, but like, I knew people that had the answers. I caused my own stress by just being too proud to just say, hey, bro, can you help me? Hey, sis, can you help me? And once I learned how to do that and ask for help and not feel like I was less than for asking for help, it changed everything.
And that's something else we have to normalize. We have to normalize being able to, especially for men, to ask for help. Get comfortable asking for help. We don't have to do things on our own. But we look at, and this may be just I guess when a man has his finances together, if that's linked to masculinity, and a person feels less masculine because they don't, or they feel like they got to ask for help. I think we gotta, just for one, let's eliminate that. Let's take that out off the plate, and let's say, man, for one, being able to hiding these things, man, and dealing with these feelings of not having enough, not getting the help you need, and not having the answers, man, we got to be able to, we got to eliminate that, man. We got to make normalize it again, where we can actually vocalize, like, yo, when there's something going wrong, and we need the help. As we talk about finance, but it's even for mental health. We got to like eliminate that stigma, that's associated with both.
That was
and
tough
I think
for
that's,
me.
yeah, I think it's a stigma. It's the stigma that's attached to it that we just really got to eliminate. But that stigma is what's keeping so many people stuck in place and not getting the help they need, and they're just repeating that cycle.
The repeating the cycle. So we're about to go now. You brought it up. Expectations. Let's just say expectations. I want you to dive into that a little bit more and how that affects the mental, because I think we've all experienced that at some point in our life, especially now at our age. Like, so I definitely would like you to dive into that a little bit more, so that we can kind of talk through and people can see, your perception on it with your profession.
I got you. So expectations. I mean, expectations can come from many different places.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can start off coming from your family, you know, your parents, you know, you know, of course, being raised, having to make a certain, you know, being, you know, doing well in school, doing well in sports if you were an athlete, you know, certain expectations to show up in a certain way on the field, expectations in friendships, expectations in relationships, expectations that you put on yourself, you know, and, you know, I'm gonna talk about self in a second, but there's a lot of external expectations that we try to live up to, society expectations, the things that we see and we feel like we should be doing. And some of these expectations are, you know, while some are, you know, normal, okay, these are things that we probably should be doing. Some are things that we are additional stress that we are attaching ourselves to that we don't have to attach ourselves to. And this kind of goes back to self now. Who are you really, man? Like, what is it that you really like? What is it that you really want? And are you taking on additional expectations that are not conducive to who you are? So when we talking about additional stress here, man, I want to say that a lot of times, trying to live up to certain expectations can make it difficult for a person to, you know, it can just really make it difficult for a person. So I want to say, as we talk about expectation, it really all depends, man. It really all depends.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into it and talk about in regards to especially dating, right? So you mentioned, you know, like expectations for a man to have this much money or to do this much, and if you know, if you can't buy me this, then don't expect to come here, like you said, or if you know you don't make this much, you shouldn't even be in the dating scene. Like, let's talk about the pressure that is, the reality of it, and you know, solutions to move forward.
I got you. I got you. So, I mean, it's definitely those expectations, you know, within dating as far as finances. So for one is to realize that you don't have to live up to all of those expectations. You got to do what's true to you and be honest with yourself when it comes to these things. And kind of going back to what we initially said is having that, being able to communicate and be honest with yourself and the person that you're choosing to date as where you are with your finances. Another thing is to be honest with yourself on, do you feel comfortable enough going out with this amount of money versus, you know, wanting to have this, you know, and that's totally up to you to decide on what you feel comfortable with and what's going to make you happiest. If you feel like you still want to date and, you know, you probably only got $10 in your pocket, then figure out how you can make that happen. You know, it's possible. It might not be, you know, it can still be an enjoyable experience, but it's all about, you know what I'm saying, you being honest with yourself on what it is that you can do with that $10. I know $10 ain't a lot in today's society at all. But if you're really looking to date and you find a woman that's willing to date you with the $10, then hey, by all means, communicate, be honest, and make that happen. But at the same time, if you know that's something that you're not going to be comfortable with, and you know within yourself there's more things that you want to do, then you got to be honest with yourself. There may be some more things I really need to do or focus on before I can really put my energy and attention into dating or what that looks like. You know, I think when it comes to dating, you definitely want to be able to be present in that process if you really want to be able to give your all and you really want to, you know, receive what you want, you know, from that process as well as far as dating. So I think a big part of that is if you know that you're not going to be able to really be present and do those things that you would like to do, then maybe you might want to take a step back and just kind of reevaluate where you are financially. Do what's necessary so you can be comfortable when you step out there in the dating scene.
Yeah. So with that, and then so with dating and, you know, men's and these expectations, you know, we talk about, you know, the effective communication. I know personally I've spoke with a lot of guys that unfortunately, you know, whether it's seeing posts about, like we talked about, hey, if you can't afford this, don't try to holler at me, this and that, and all of this verbiage around, hey, as a man you need to make this much to present yourself, which brings in a couple of things, right? Like, it shows like, hey, respect is tied to your dollar amount, right, or to your bank account. And two, unfortunately, I speak with a lot of men on a regular basis that feel less than because they hear these things like, why they evaluate, hey, I can't provide anyone a Birkin bag. I can't afford to put you in a $600,000 house. You know, I can't put you in the Lexus and just let you push it for free. Like, I can't afford that. And they feel less than, which is tough, right? Because that's a tough situation to be in when, you know, you're actively building and trying to be able to provide something for people other than you at some point, a family, right? But all the time you feel less than. I feel like that would cause a lot of insecurity, and you probably see it a lot with men too, a lot of insecurities that develop from not being able to reach that standard that's constantly prevented day in and day out on these social media platforms.
Right, right. And again, that's a difficult thing that we do deal with in today's time with social media. And then of course seeing these messages saying that if you don't have this or you can afford this, you probably shouldn't be talking to me. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, I want to say that might be a clear indicator that maybe you probably shouldn't be talking to that person if
I
that's
agree.
what they're focused on. If
Mm-hmm.
that if that's what they're looking for versus love or all the other things that a person could bring to the table, then maybe that's probably not the person that you probably want to be trying to get with. Try to like meet that person's expectation. And I want to say, like, I think that's it's like news, man. We don't watch
Yeah.
all the news channel. It's like maybe that's a person you want to maybe either mute or cut out because obviously they're not helping you with your situation. Now, it's one thing that if that's what you want to do, if you want to be able to afford these things, that
Mm-hmm.
cool, man. It's totally up to you.
Yeah.
But if like that's an expectation that you have to do that to date or to be with a certain person, not necessarily, man. I think that's where it becomes more of that, and we're talking about attachments. That's an unhealthy attachment to something, an unhealthy attachment to an expectation that you don't have to attach yourself to.
Mm. I like the way you put that. I like that. So talking about social media and the dating scene, right? So now I want to jump into, because just from, we see it, we're both very into music, right? Me and a lot of my friends are very into music. And one of the things we can see is social media and all these things are very tied to our culture, right? So I want to ask you, how does the culture affect how we view money and ourselves?
Oh man, it's a lot of. So I mean, it's crazy because we're hearing in some of the music that we listen to that we're making the money, we be getting all the girls. Like you get the money, you do all the you live this carefree life.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to say, man, a lot of times the messages that we're hearing in the music and some of the things that we see is not necessarily reality.
Yeah.
It's glamorized.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we have to, as a culture, it's also our duty to be able to be honest with ourselves too and separate what's being glamorized and what we're doing for a good time and what's enjoyable to what's reality.
Mm.
So, on social media and what we're seeing, obviously it looks good. It sounds good. We listen to this, but in actuality, we don't know all the struggles that these artists and like these people that saying this is going through in the background. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? I can think of many different artists who, they glamorize these lifestyles, but man, end up dead at, what I'm saying, like, weeks later, man, or end up shot and killed for whatever reason, because, they put this out in the culture. And now, you have people where there's jealousy, where there's envy,
Mm-hmm.
and all these other emotions and things that kind of come out, that we don't always talk about because you glamorize a certain reality or glamorize something that probably wasn't 100%, real, or it might be real to you, but not for the masses of everybody that's within the culture.
Mm-hmm.
But I think another big thing about that is, that's why, we have people like you, we have people like myself, where we are able to kind of educate and talk with people that look like us and talk to people within our culture to let them know the reality of like, this is this is what it is.
Yeah.
This is what's
Yeah.
going on. If you want this is how you get there. Now, are you sure that this is what you want? Because these are the problems that's going to come with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we gotta, I mean, I think there's definitely space for all of these things. I think with the music we listen to and the TV and the shows and stuff that we watch, it's entertainment, and sometimes we gotta be able to separate what's entertainment from what's reality.
That's
and i
huge.
think that's and I think that's another big thing too, man. And we got to continue to have spaces like this where we can talk about the realness of what's going on. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as we keep doing this and keep putting this out there, I think we'll be able to continue to like rise above what's real and what's fake.
Hey, some gems you dropped today, my brother. That's I want to thank you again for coming to the show and really helping enlighten the mental side or the mental aspect of finances when it comes to us as a people. I think these are conversations, like you said, that need to be had, and that's exactly why I wanted to create this show, is to have these conversations that I know everybody's thinking but no one's saying, right? It's easy to get on here and just teach people, hey, this is how 401k works. This is a difference between a Roth IRA and a regular IRA. Like, yeah, that's, everyone does that. I want to talk about real stuff, right? Which goes back into how I introduced the show. But overall, before we get out of here, is there anything else that you would like to push to the audience that's listening? One being all of your info, because once again, I will push that
Yeah.
D'Angelo is also into business as well, and he has a lot of things that are going on. So I'd love for you to promote yourself. So put your stuff out here. Let them know your Instagram, if you got YouTube, TikTok,
Mhm.
whatever it is. Put it out there so people can check you out and follow you and start listening to some of the messaging you're putting out as well.
No doubt, no doubt. So if you're looking to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, Taylor Famous Q. That's my handle. You can check out my practice page. It's Soundtrack to Life LLC. I typically post a lot of different tips on mental health, on wellness. I'm also a wellness coach. I started I have I guess you say wellness group in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia area called the DMV Wellness Group. We actually host a weekly event called a virtual walk and talk where we bring up different mental health, wellness, and motivational topics where people tune in, tap in 7 a.m. in the morning every Wednesday. And it's a good break within a week, but like I said, it's definitely a lot of good gems and a lot of good information that share within those group meetings. On top of that, we curate a lot of different wellness events, whether that's wellness meetups, whether that's probably doing something as far as like a cycle bar, everyone riding bikes, yoga class,
Oh, wow.
meditations, fitness class, fitness groups. We do a lot of different things as it relates to mental health and wellness. So if that's something anybody's interested in tapping in, please reach out to me for that as well. As I mentioned before, I'm also a music producer. I make beats. I just recently dropped a project called Beat Therapy 3. That's actually the third part of my Beat Therapy series that I've dropped here. I dropped that early January. So if you're interested in any music, any beats, you can definitely connect with me on that. Again, you can follow me at Taylor Famous Q. That's my handle. Other than that, if there's any mental health topics or anything mental health related that you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me. If you're looking for a therapist and you need help trying to find exactly what direction to take with that, you can also reach out to me for that. I don't mind helping people, navigate what that looks like.
Hey, that's amazing. Lifting as we climb. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Yes, sir.
so one question I do have, 'cause I'm pretty sure someone else is gonna have the question. So this group that you have, if it's DMV based, can anyone from anywhere join that group?
Yes, anyone from anywhere can join it. It's virtual, so
Okay.
when we do walk and talk, it's all virtual. We meet on, via Google Meet. And as I mentioned, as of right now, it is DMV based, so a lot of activities right now are in the DMV, but we are looking to expand out in many different areas. I know right now I'm currently in North Carolina, so this is something that we'll probably be doing as far as different events that will be coming out that you'll see pop up as far as the North Carolina area. So, we'll be expanding out this way. So definitely look out for some of the events that will be coming here in North Carolina.
Hey, In the Smoker will support.
Yes, sir. And I really do appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely. Please subscribe to the Finance Bro and the listening service that you're using today. Leave us a review and purchase my book, The End of Smoker Mindset, at www.endofsmoker.com. There, you can also find my budgeting course that for a limited time is also 25% off. So if you check that out, this course will walk you through how to create an effective budget to get your finances in order and being your first step to getting where you need to be. On my site, you can also find my financial coaching services as well as my credit repair services. So if you need anything, or if you just want to get on the phone and have a consultation to see where you should go, or direction, or a rudder steer, please give me a call. We can set up a consultation and we get you where you need to be. All right, let's get in the smoke.